Well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Angela. And it's my great pleasure to be with you and the audience today. I'm delighted to be sharing some information about how each and every one of us can help support older adults to stay at home in the community for longer in healthy and successful ways.
Yes. So could you tell us what's your current position and what is your research focus? Yeah. Mhm.
Absolutely. So my name is Roger Wong. I'm actually a clinical professor in geriatric medicine at the University of British Columbia, UBC. I'm also the Vice Dean Education in the Faculty of Medicine at UBC. I have been doing a lot of work as a geriatric specialist doctor looking after seniors and their loved ones, their families. And I do the work including supporting seniors who may have health conditions that make them more vulnerable, such as those who are living with dementia, including the most common type, Alzheimer's dementia.
Okay, great. That's a very important job, right?
Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm delighted to be able to provide my service to supporting older
Mhm.
adults and their families and their loved ones, and very importantly, in culturally sensitive ways as well.
Yes, I can see your passion. Um, I know you from your TEDx talk, how to keep our elderly parents at home. So could you elaborate with your TED talk, the story about your grandma?
Absolutely. It was interesting that you mentioned the TED Talk. So I remember a number of years ago, I was sitting back and reflecting, in my clinical practice, I spent a lot of time counseling older people and their loved ones. And a common question asked by family members is, Dr. Wong, what can we do to help to keep our parents or grandparents home for longer? And that's a recurring question. So I thought, okay, this must be a very important question. How can I get that information out to the public using a different platform? Which is why I thought that I would choose to give a TED Talk. In this case, it was a TEDx talk in Vancouver.
Mhm.
And the talk has been very well received. I remember, a number of years ago when I did this, it was a full house. It was at the end of the talk, there was a standing ovation from the audience. I was very, very touched. And in the talk, I spoke about different ways that all of us can do to keep older adults home for longer. And I'll be sharing some of those with the audience today. And subsequently, the talk or the online video has been curated by the main TED Talk website, has been translated into 5 different languages, and it has received a significant number of views from around the world. So that tells us that this is a really important topic for a lot of people globally. And so it was interesting because in the talk, we started talking about what are some of the things that we can do for ourselves as well as for our loved ones as we age to stay home for longer. I think if I were to summarize, and there are really 3 things, and I want to share this with the audience today.
Sure.
So first is really the importance of physical activity or exercise. What we talk about is what's good for the body is also good for the mind and for the brain.
Mhm.
So exercise, it means different things to different people, but in general, the recommendation is on average 150 minutes per week. So if you split it up over 5 days, it's about 30 minutes of exercise per day, 5 days a week. And it can be any combination of aerobic exercises with anaerobic exercises. So it is really important that people continue to do the exercising on a regular basis. So it doesn't work if you say, okay, I've done my exercise today, then I'm off for a whole week or two. That doesn't work. So you need to do it all the time. It is the discipline that is really important. Now, the second thing that I share is the importance of socialization, is that human connection. Human connection is really important, something we've learned during the COVID-19 pandemic when there was a lot of separation and isolation. We know that mental health is just as important as physical health. There is an intricate relationship between mental well-being and physical well-being. So a lot of times when we talk about socialization, we say, okay, if physical activity, exercise is important. Socialization is important. Can you combine the two? So the concept of a group exercise program, whether people get together to do yoga or tai chi, or they golf together, or they dance, or they swim, whatever, doesn't matter. So the socialization is really important. And then the third piece is there are certain things that technology can help us. And again, we can talk more about what kind of technology. And by technology, we're not just talking about the wearable devices, the internet mediated things. We might have heard about IoT, Internet of Things, so that the smart home approaches, we're monitoring and so on. But it could be technology like, tablet devices, computers. We know, for example, that a lot of older adults, they may be living alone and their loved ones may be staying distances apart, maybe in a different country, different continent. How do we use technology to connect people, such as, using video calls, such as using real-time chat? Now, obviously, ideally, the in-person human connection is preferred, but at least, for some of the time, if it is really necessary, then trying to use technology to connect the pieces first. So those are really three things that I oftentimes talk to people about, and they were the things that I also highlighted during my TED Talk.
Yeah, yes. So the different ways. Sometimes I see the very fancy robots. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I know there have been a lot of emerging technologies and robotics, including things like social robots have actually been promoted to say, okay, they play a role. I think human connection is so important, and for a lot of seniors, having a robotic companion may be better than not having any connection, but in compared to a real human touch, there's still a preference for the human touch. Now, that said, there are many automatic devices that can be quite friendly to seniors and that can make their homes and communities, for example, safer. So a good example will be, when there are wearable devices and monitoring devices that could be linked, again, through Wi-Fi technology or internet. And then, the well-being of the older person can be maintained through some of these technologies. Now, that said, we have to be mindful because for seniors who live in rural or remote areas, their access to Wi-Fi or internet might be different, and therefore there may be difficulty in terms of deploying, implementing some of these technologies. So we just need to be mindful that there has to be equitable access to all seniors. But allow me to put another plug in, since we're talking about that, instead of robots, maybe that human connection. Neighbors can be very important. Now, sometimes you hear about neighborhood watches. And when you think about neighborhood watches, we are oftentimes talking about security, safety, right? Policing and so on. But in fact, neighbors can be very helpful in maintaining that socialization with seniors who may be residing alone. And so the new definition of neighborhood watches, maybe they can be the focus, the hub of activities that generate more socialization and other human interactions with seniors.
Oh, yeah.